The two-part season finale of The Bad Batch brought with it the end of an era. Clone troopers have officially been phased out of the Empire in favor of conscripted or volunteer soldiers, so now seems like an appropriate time to cover every canon type of clone trooper we have ever seen. The standard clone trooper first appeared in Attack of the Clones, created by the cloners of Kamino to serve as the primary soldier of the Grand Army of the Republic. Cloned from the DNA of bounty hunter Jango Fett, they were engineered to age twice as fast as their donor, and inhibitor chips placed in their heads made them more easily controlled. They were initially equipped with Phase 1 armor and DC-15 blasters. Over the course of the Clone Wars, their armor shifted into a second phase. Although they were genetically identical, clone troopers developed distinct personalities based on their unique experiences in the war and their interactions with the Jedi generals under which they served. They expressed that through customizations in their armor and the adoption of names instead of the clone identification numbers they were given at birth. A large-scale conflict like the Clone Wars called for specializations in clone troopers. For example, some clones like Kix were clone medics. They were specially equipped to treat wounded soldiers on the battlefield. Clone gunners operated vehicle-mounted weapons and artillery, for example the mass driver cannon found on the backs of all-terrain tactical enforcer walkers. Special Ops or Stealth Ops clone troopers were trained to covertly spy on and defeat their enemies, whether on the ground or on a ship. They were given advanced, specialized gear that enhanced their senses. Clone JETPACK troopers were trained for aerial combat, often using the JT-12 jetpack, which allowed them to hover or make long-distance jumps at speeds of up to 145 kilometers per hour. Clone SCUDA troopers were trained for aquatic combat using clone dive armor. It was equipped with breathing tubes in their helmets, fins on their boots, and the DC-12U beam rifle that could operate underwater. They famously participated in the defense of Mon Cala. Clone flame troopers were armed with BT-X-42 flamethrowers, and they wore special insulated armor that protected them from the intense heat their weapons put off. Clone paratroopers were trained for airborne missions and high-altitude drops. They were equipped with parachutes or could be frequently seen rappelling into combat like the 212th Attack Battalion did on Utapau. Clone scout troopers were used for recon missions. Their armor was camouflaged and designed to be more maneuverable, allowing for extra speed at the expense of full-body protection. Cold assault clone troopers wore HT-77 armor that protected them from the harsh elements of frozen or snowy planets like Ordo Plutonia. The lenses in their helmets were also designed to reduce reflective glare and frost, which would threaten visibility. Bomb Squad clone troopers were trained in the deactivation of deadly explosives. They wore orange armor and most famously helped disarm bombs containing the Blue Shadow virus on Naboo. Clone sharpshooters were experts in sniping. They were often armed with the Valken 38X blaster rifle, which was also the weapon seen wielded by the bounty hunter Dengar. Their helmets had built-in electro-binoculars to assist them in their long-range shots. Heavy weapons clone troopers were specialized in larger blasters and other weapons that were designed for taking down enemy vehicles. Their DC-15 LE blaster rifles could be modified to fire explosive blasts. Of course, clones weren't simply limited to ground forces, but could also be seen providing air or space support. Clone trooper pilots flew various starfighters throughout the Clone Wars, including Y-Wings, V-19 Torrents, Z-95 Headhunters, ARC-170s, V-Wings, and more. Their armor seemed to be adjusted to fit the starfighter they happened to be flying. Stealth clone pilots also existed, specifically trained to handle stealth vehicles like the IPV-2C stealth corvette, which was outfitted with a cloaking device. Their armor was black to distinguish them from standard clone pilots. Several kinds of clone officers also existed. They did not wear armor but instead wore cloth uniforms that displayed their rank in the Republic Army or Navy. Army officers wore blue uniforms. Naval officers were specifically called Clone Navigation Officers. They could be seen serving as the crew members on board Venator-class Star Destroyers and other capital ships. Their uniforms were gray. Clone Medical Officers wore white uniforms and served aboard medical stations and other Republic ships. Clones also made up the flight crews of the Republic Navy, and they were trained to maintain equipment such as starfighters and walkers that were stored on their capital ships. We've only seen one maintenance duty clone in the form of 99. Since he wasn't fit for active duty, he served the war effort in the best way he could by staying on Kamino to help maintain his home and his brother's equipment. Moving on to elite clone troopers, shock troopers were stationed on Coruscant, where they served as a security police force. Their red and white armor was recognizable to clones across the galaxy, and their appearance off-world of the Republic capital always caught notice. Clone riot troopers were part of the Coruscant Guard, trained in crowd control. They were armed with large shields and shock batons. Advanced Recon Commandos, or ARC Troopers, were promoted clones that earned the title on the battlefield. Echo and Fives became ARC Troopers after demonstrating their courage during the Battle of Camino. Their armor included extra plating, pauldrons on each shoulder, a comma, a rangefinder, and ammunition pouches. Their armor was an experimental version of the standard Phase 2 clone armor. Specialized ARC Troopers also existed, like the Advanced Recon Forest Scout Troopers. They wore lighter armor built for stealth and speed. They could often be seen riding all-terrain reconnaissance transports. Biker Advanced Recon Commandos, or BARC Troopers, operated their own specialized speeder bikes, simply known as BARC Speeders. BARC Troopers were responsible for the death of Jedi Master Stas Ali on the planet Seleucami. Clone Commandos, or Republic Commandos, were another version of elite clone trooper. Often working in groups of 4 like Delta Squad, they took on special and often dangerous missions. They wore distinct Katarn-class commando armor that were equipped with backpacks to carry extra gear. They were armed with the DC-17M interchangeable weapon system, which could be transformed into many kinds of blasters, and they had a vibroblade hidden in their right hand's armor. Clone Force 99 was an experimental unit of commandos that were engineered by the Kaminoans to have desirable mutations. Hunter, their leader, had enhanced senses, Crosshair was an excellent marksman, Wrecker had superhuman strength, and Tech was highly intelligent. The ARC Trooper Echo joined their squad after being experimented upon by enemy forces, and Omega was the final member of the unit, a female but otherwise unaltered clone of Jango Fett. And we're going to finish off this list today with a few more clone types that are technically canon but haven't yet appeared in any story material. For example, the Clone Artillery Trooper was trained in using mortars or other artillery and has so far only been mentioned in a role-playing sourcebook. Clone Comms Technicians were in charge of maintaining communications between their commanders and any other clone units in the area. Clone Engineers ensured the Army's vehicles and equipment were maintained in the midst of battle, kind of like the Clone Flight Crew members, but on the field. Clone Heavy Gunners carried the Z6 rotary blaster cannon and were equipped with superior armor than the standard clone. And finally, the Clone Shadow Trooper wore experimental black stealth armor to indicate their status as elite troopers in the Grand Army of the Republic. They were the predecessors to the Imperial Shadow Trooper. And those are all the clone types and variants in Star Wars canon up to this point. Which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page for exclusive Star Wars Explained content. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.